Hey guys, what's going on? I hope you're all having a great day today because today we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 yet again, and more specifically, third-party games on the Nintendo Switch 2 because they have posted very low numbers. And I gotta be completely honest with you guys, I think part of that might be due to the digital keycards. So let's quickly go over what a Nintendo Switch 2 keycard is. You can see here a Nintendo Switch 2 game keycard overview, and they have like the little game case here with the little information thing saying it's a game key card. You insert the card into the system, you then have to download the game, and you can play it. But this kind of defeats the entire purpose of a physical game. A lot of the reason people like physical games is because you don't have to spend time downloading them. You can just pop in the game and play it. So you might be asking, well, what the hell does this have to do with third-party games? Well, a lot of third-party games are game key cards, and I think that's the reason they're not doing well. So I came across this article here today, and I want to highlight some stuff in it and talk about it. Switch 2's non-Nintendo games are flopping for so many reasons. So there are other reasons besides the game key cards, but I do believe that is the main one. Outside of Cyberpunk 2077, third-party Switch 2 games are struggling to sell at launch. Unfucking fortunate, man. But I'm actually surprised that Cyberpunk is selling well because I watched Digital Foundry's video on it, and that runs like ass. And before you comment that it runs like ass on the Steam Deck too, I'm well aware. Since time immemorial, the axiom's been that you buy a Nintendo console to play Nintendo games. Third-party games made by other publishers are worthwhile, but typically those are the sorts of experiences you can find on other platforms as well. For Nintendo's latest hardware, the Switch 2, things are trending in a similar direction, at least for now. So yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that third-party games don't sell as well as Nintendo games on a Nintendo platform. When I used to buy Nintendo platforms as a kid, I always bought them for Nintendo games. Even during the Switch generation, I didn't get a lot of games on Switch, and I opted to get them on other platforms because the games ran like shit, if I'm honest. So this really isn't surprising, but it's the fact that the numbers are lower than they estimated, and not just lower than Nintendo first-party games. Also, I don't really think it's a coincidence that it's mainly third-party games that are digital game keycards. Just saying. Because the one third-party game they mentioned that was a success is actually a game that's fully on the cartridge. That, of course, being Cyberpunk 2077. Also, if Cyberpunk can fit on a cartridge, you have no excuse not to have your game on a cartridge. There's actually a lot of developers that have games that are smaller than Cyberpunk 2077, but they for some reason chose not to put their game as a physical cartridge, and instead put it as only a game keycard. I'm guessing this was done to save money. As reported by The Game Business, stats for early Nintendo Switch 2 show that adopters in the United States and UK are mostly purchasing the console for games like Mario Kart World and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Apparently, most games outside of those developed by Nintendo are selling in very low numbers. The Game Business quotes one anonymous publisher saying that the numbers are coming in below their expected estimates. I mean, I would love to know what these estimates are, but let's be real, we're not getting that data. The one exception is for Cyberpunk 2077, a much anticipated port for a game that stands out above other third-party options. CD Projekt Red's futuristic RPG had a messy launch, and, through the course of several updates and expansions, has enjoyed somewhat of a renaissance in the last couple of years now that it resembles the original vision pitched to fans. Cyberpunk 2077 is also packaged beautifully with a cartridge that references something in the actual game. Beyond that, the neo-noir adventure has the benefit of functioning as a showcase for the power of the Switch 2, especially since it wasn't available for the first console. The success of Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 was practically preordained. I gotta be honest, I don't think picking Cyberpunk 2077 to showcase the power of the Switch 2 is a smart move considering the game only holds like 40 FPS. even on performance mode. The very low sales of other third-party games stands in contrast to the eye-popping numbers for, say, Mario Kart World, where a staggering 80% of console sales had Nintendo's Racer bundled into the purchase. There's a good chance the other 20% got Mario Kart as well, just purchased separately. There are a few reasons things could be unfolding this way, beyond the obvious factor that the reason to buy a Nintendo console is for the Japanese developers' exclusive games. Many of the titles available at launch are ports for games that are already playable on all major platforms, including the first Switch. The Switch 2 and its pricing initially caused some ruckus as users balked at the $449.99 price tag, which makes it more expensive than some models of the PS5 and Xbox. Combined with higher prices for games, accessories like the Joy-Con 2, there's the real possibility some consumers feel selective in their purchases. The Switch 2 launched during an era where the price of eggs is a regular talking point, and the reality is that the console is a luxury item. Now, personally, I don't agree with this. I think if someone has the money to drop on a Switch 2 day one, they probably have the money for games. They're just choosing not to get third-party games. Personally, I've only bought Mario Kart World so far, but it's not because I don't want other games. It does help that backwards compatibility means my choices don't feel limited on the Switch 2. If anything, the improved power is giving me more reason to revisit games I already own. I imagine I'm not alone in that, though funnily enough, many of the older games enticing me are, you guessed it, made by Nintendo. TGB also points out that consumers might experience friction with the confusing concept around game keycards. Here we go. There's evidence that people are accidentally buying the wrong version of a Switch game, now that some titles are available on both the current and previous generation. Undoubtedly, some are also bristling at the notion that keycards require you to download the game, despite purchasing a physical copy. I mean, I don't really think it's confusing, more so just stupid. And a lot of other people felt the same way when the game key cards thing was announced. A ton of people were shitting on it, and it turns out those people spoke with their wallets. Amid all these considerations and asterisks, it's worth noting that Switch 2 numbers on the whole are promising. The console follow-up was breaking records a mere day after its release, and it's been weeks since that point. Still, there's not a simple way to slice the narrative around the console, is there? It's hard to say how this compares to Switch or competitors when Nintendo had way more units available for purchase from the get-go. Would the PS5 have fared better if people could actually find it in its first couple of years? I mean, dude, is that even a question you have to ask? The answer is obvious, of course. The first Switch also had way fewer physical games at launch than its younger sibling, and Nintendo didn't make review units available for Switch 2 for major publications, including Polygon, which impacts coverage of games as publications have to scramble to write about more big-ticket items in a timely manner. Consumers may not know what's worth playing beyond Mario Kart World, and this early on they might not care. The Racer hasn't lost its sheen yet. Yeah, I definitely don't agree that people don't know what's worth playing when it comes to third-party games, because I remember reading somewhere a little while ago that more people are watching videos about gaming than actually playing games themselves. I think people are well aware, they just don't like the keycard concept. As time goes on, the narrative around Switch 2 and third-party options may change. People might buy Nintendo consoles for Nintendo games, but the first Switch was still a favored repository of indie games. Then again, things worked out that way because of timing. In 2017, most major games were shacked to TVs and monitors. These days, the number of high-powered portable machines is becoming hard to keep track of, and there are only more coming. But yeah, that was the article. I actually do want to go ahead and take a look at what Twitter is saying about this, because I wonder if Twitter also thinks it's the game keycards that caused this, like I do. So, Wario64 here says, the game business. Most third-party Switch 2 games posted very low numbers. One third-party publisher characterized the numbers as below our lowest estimates, despite strong hardware sales. Cyberpunk 2077 was the best-selling third-party game. Has the game actually on cart? beating launch sales of Witcher 3 on Switch 1. This guy says Suffa game cards. There's Nintendo the fanboy. I would buy Bravely Default at $50 right now if the game was in the cartridge. Prices, it's the key cards, why not just get digital? Every third-party game on a key card deserves to flop. You can see there's a lot of likes. Like, a lot of people genuinely do hate the idea of the game keycard. Nobody wants a game without a game being on the damn game. I think he means cartridge here at the end. Because they're key cards. Nintendo definitely needs to get smaller capacity, cheaper, 32, 16, or 8 game cartridges on the market. The majority of people think game key cards are a scam, which they are. I wouldn't say scam, you're getting what you pay for, it's just a ripoff. Key cards again? Yeah, a lot of people are saying it's the key cards. Anyway, that is pretty much all I have to say for today's video. Let me know in the comment section below, do you think it's the game key cards causing third-party games to have low numbers on the Switch? Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you disliked it, leave a dislike and a mean comment. And yeah, peace.